Hi, everyone. This is Dawn Richard, also known as The Awakening with Dawn, and this is the Wake Up to Real Love podcast, where we share stories of struggles and triumphs in love, sex, and relationships, along with expert advice to create more conscious connections. I am so excited today to welcome my new friend and colleague, Laura Hof. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Dawn. Hi, everybody. So good to be here. Thank you.
Laura is an amazing, amazing woman. She is a professional airline pilot, mother of two terrific teenagers, French speaker, life coach, meditator, nature lover, healer, yogi, amateur musician, photographer, and writer. Can you believe all of that stuff about yourself? Welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much, Dawn. What an honor. What a privilege to be here. Thank you. Yeah, I just decided to go for it. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to put it all out there. I do a lot of stuff. We all do.
Yeah.
We all do. We all have so many roles.
Yeah. And it's not just roles, it's ways of being in the world and exploring more aspects of ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. And as I was writing that list, I also realized that I'm not my roles. I can write, I stand on my head and we all have so many things that we do every day, but that's not what defines us. Right. So I feel like, we're bigger, wider, deeper than all of what we say we do. Right. So anyway.
And I think this is a great place to start because of what we're experiencing right now is really because we have been forced to stop doing everything, right? Or doing a lot of things that we normally do on a day-to-day basis. And so I just wanted to ask you, well, two questions. One, how this is affecting your life in this present moment. And two, how is it similar or different to what you experienced after 9/11 in the airline industry?
Wow. So I would say it's been massively impactful. Both events have been and still are in our case now, like it's massively, massively impactful. Present circumstances, the word unprecedented has been used because it's the truth that we've never been here before.
Yeah.
And we're all really literally stopped in our tracks and given what I consider to be just this tremendous opportunity to sift through what perhaps we once thought were the most important things in our lives and get to the truth of what really is important, what matters. That's a question I've been asking myself, for a long time actually, but more pointedly now. I think maybe one of the most significant differences, 9/11 was, it just had an incredible impact, both, globally, across our country, personally for those of us in the airline business. But it was a single day. And it really can't compare. Terrible tragedies, right?
Yeah.
Things are happening left, right, and center, and now. But this is ongoing, and both incite tremendous fear. We didn't know what was happening on 9/11. We sort of are really still figuring out what's going on now. There's a lot of unknown. We're being thrust into the unknown, and having to reprioritize and learn how to navigate through what just feels completely uncharted. And yeah, so I think it's causing us or for me personally, and for many people I know, to draw on resources that are really within us to figure out the best way to navigate, to steer our lives, and deal with all the uncertainty.
And so when you said figuring out what matters, what have you realized or recognized or um, reaffirmed about what matters in your life?
Hmm. Uh, yeah, that's a really big question. What matters is love, Dawn. And you know it as well as I
Yes,
do. That's
yes.
why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having my kids home, um, it's just a tremendous opportunity to connect, to appreciate, to find gratitude, to really deepen connection. Not that it's happening perfectly, it's certainly not. And oftentimes, I think we find the places that need our attention from things that don't work. So, and that's one thing I've really learned along the way. Yeah, definitely not a perfect situation here at all, but it's definitely one that I've just continued to try to find ways to, you know, feel grateful, to, you know, be loving, to, you know, take care of myself. And sometimes just doing that, teenagers want to be left alone a lot of the time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
really, it's been a lot about self-care. So yeah, I feel like I've maybe circled around, but really, I think the bottom line is what matters is love. Yeah.
And so how do you well, because we've talked a lot about this, how do you learn to self-care and self-love so that it translates to caring for others and connecting with others?
Mm. Um, well, I think first of all, and this is still very new territory for me, or maybe it's just a place that it's rich for ripe for learning, self-love. I think without it, it's almost impossible to care for other people, without a level of love, or certainly deeply. We can do it superficially and have lots of sympathy, but really to connect deeply with ourselves, um, and with love, we need to connect with ourselves rather. So it's really learning to honor and embrace what happens within us, and see like all of our feelings and accept our feelings, and uh yeah, just work with things that come up. I mean, there's just tremendous amount of fear and uncertainty right now, and
Mhm.
one of the things that I've found really helpful, albeit very difficult, is to stay present with the feelings of fear that come up and say, you know, okay, this is where I'm at right now, and not just try to bury it, stuff it, run away from it. And again, doesn't happen perfectly every time. You know, there are often times where, you know, I'm just trying to find some relief like everybody else here, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
But but I feel like it's a very powerful practice to be able to stop, recognize, and stay with what's happening, whatever the inner experience is, and have compassion for it, really. And it takes time to do that, to actually, you know, and we have so one of the gifts I think of this time is that we have what I consider to be a luxury of lots of free time for this type of self-reflection. I mean, we're home,
Mhm.
and God bless all the people out there on the front lines doing the work, you know. And I feel like in some way, those of us who are here at home are doing our work too, to, you know, care for ourselves so that we can care for others in a richer, deeper, fuller way.
Mhm. Yeah. This I feel like all of this goes back to where did you learn to love? how did you learn to love? And
Mm.
what did you learn about showing up for yourself in the world? And I would imagine, because when you were talking earlier about uncharted and navigating, it's just all like your pilot language.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of me.
And
Yeah.
I know that your dad was a pilot as well. And
Yes.
and so, how do you take those times of uncertainty and fear and really dig deep and find your resilience and resources to figure out how to navigate new ways?
Isn't that the question? That's a big question. Yeah. Um, well, to kind of tease it apart a little bit, learning about love, like I think like many of us, we've learned a lot about things that happen in the name of love that perhaps are not loving.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most powerful things that I've learned along the way in the school of hard knocks, um, is to trust the body. And I say that because, you know, we'll have physical sensations as reactions to external stimuli. So something that is soothing and comforting and wonderful feels good, like a blanket being wrapped around you, right? And uh, someone might have a comment that sounds like it is harmless, but it feels like someone just stuck a knife in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounded nice, but it felt horrible. Okay, what do I trust here? The social sounding niceness of it, or the fact that I just feel like I've been cut in half?
Mm-hmm.
So the difference between, oh, wrap me up in a blanket and it feels so good, that's your body's truth. Like my body knows what feels good and what does not. And it's very simple. It's playing the game of warm or colder. So, but the problem is we get a little very conditioned culturally to lean into the social norms, the cultural norms of, you know, so that nice comment that so and so said to me, like everybody around me has no problem with that comment, but that person knows me well enough to know where that those buttons are pushed.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurt like crazy, and they have no, and if I may, take the situation even farther with whoever might deliver something like that, a relationship, whatever. Um, if I speak my truth, which is, "Oh, that really hurt," and they have no compunction and no sense of what, I didn't do anything wrong.
You're crazy. What's the matter
um,
with you?
right.
Right?
Again, it's what do I trust? Well, I've learned, and this is the steering part, this is the navigating part. So I've learned, and I should say I continue to learn because this is constant, life's a
It's a
constant
process
classroom.
journey. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That when I feel, oof, something's not right, and I can trust that. When I feel, oh, yeah, oh, this is great, I can trust that. So it's getting out of the head that says, but wait, everybody else thinks that's okay. What's wrong with me? To, oh, wow, no, something really isn't okay here. And let's take a look at it and maybe get some distance and set some boundaries with people who have that impact. So big life lesson for me. Right. Yeah.
And so even it doesn't really matter how the other person responds, but when you feel that sense of discomfort and this ain't quite right,
Well,
I
it's
I
a,
I feel
yeah.
like you should be able to say, "Ow, that hurt," and for the person to recognize the impact that they had on you.
In a perfect world, yeah, wouldn't that be great? But not everyone is programmed with the level of sensitivity like that, right? So, and I think, when when one looks through the lens of a sort of a naive view of everybody feels and thinks like I do. I'm a sensitive person. Isn't everyone that way, right?
Uh-huh.
And the answer is no,
No.
not everyone is that way. But we think they are because we're that way, right? And we want to be surrounded with people like that. And so
Mhm.
we tend to have a very rosy view. But, you know, it's a really important kind of wake up call. And again, coming back to the body tells you what's on, what's, you know, warmer and what's colder, what works and what doesn't, what feels good and what does not. I think it's body never lies. Body's so totally trustworthy, but we've been conditioned not to feel, not to tune in, not to trust. So
Mhm.
it's just shedding the layers of things that we've learned and getting back to solid ground of right here, right now. What do I feel? And it is really taking baby steps to get to that sometimes. And for me, you know, on a minute to minute basis. So
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Because I think a lot of times we're stuck in our heads, right? It's all the mind chatter. And you know, like you said, some people on the outside will say, oh, that's fine, what was the big deal? But
right,
inside you're like, you know,
right,
whether it
right,
whether it's like you feel like somebody's choking you or like pushing down on your chest, or you feel that stab in the stomach, you know, I mean,
right.
you can tell when your body feels yuck.
Yes.
That's the professional term, yuck.
Yuck is a very professional term. I subscribe to that. Yuck.
But that's the whole thing, because everybody has a different sense of what that is for them, you know. So
Yes.
something that may feel fine to, you know, you feels yuck to me, or vice
Mhm.
versa. And it's
Right.
not a matter of it's not a matter of judging or questioning, like, why do you feel that way? Because I think that's why we get blocked. That's why we get
Mhm.
conditioned to, you shouldn't feel that way, or what's the matter with you, or,
Oh,
right?
yes. So true. So true. And it's, you know, your problem, right? Like, yeah, right. It's all those messages that we hear and internalize, uh, and they're not, then they're false, they're lies, you know?
Well, because they cause us not to trust ourselves.
Right, right.
And so then they cause us not to trust ourselves, to, you know, what I'm thinking and feeling isn't right, or isn't good enough, or isn't whatever, you know, that somehow I'm wrong for having these feelings, or
Hmm.
I'm, you know, somehow less than, or whatever. And it's like, you know, this is the whole part of this compassion and understanding and acceptance for both ourselves. You know, what's really going on for me? I mean, my reality is just my perception anyways, you know. I mean,
Mm.
reality is not reality is subjective, right? It's all subjective, based on your own personal experiences, your own perspectives, your own life lessons that you've learned. And, you know, I feel like we are all here to just be witness to both ourselves, you know, our
Mhm.
own internal and external experience, as well as to be witness to other people's internal and external experience.
Mhm. Yes.
So I
Yep.
know this was a big part of your previous relationships, learning to trust yourself and your voice.
Yes.
Do you want to talk? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Um, yeah, you know, again, I ignored a lot of red flags, and didn't really know how, you know, didn't trust myself, my body's wisdom, and you know, there's one thing that pain does, it's a wake-up call. So emotional pain, physical pain, it calls your attention right in. It's like laser focus right in
Mm-hmm.
to the thing that needs attention and healing. Yeah, so and then I think, as you know, you can work through that process. Yeah, I think it's also important, like you made the distinction between what's happening in your head and your thoughts about what's, what's happening in reality. I think actually we do create our real reality. I mean, I've heard that said, and I'm kind of edging into understanding that a little bit better. Like the things that happen, the thoughts that are just swirling through our minds and our heads constantly, that's not truth. That's stuff that's in our mind. I mean, they're thought forms. And we can think a lot of different things about certain situations, relationships, whatever, and things come up. But what I learned through my relationship history was the big impacts came from how it felt. And I needed to translate and understand what those feelings meant, and to kind of undo some past conditioning, a lot of past conditioning, in order to get to, oh, I actually deserve to feel good. It is okay to feel good. And I am safe right here, right now. And yeah, but things that, get programmed in, like, no, you don't deserve to feel good, because this is, as young children, we internalize and make meaning out of situations and things that happen to us that are misguided, naive. And we can have tons of compassion as we grow and develop, because it's a child trying to make meaning of a situation that was really impactful and painful. The child says, well, must be my fault because why would this person do this to me otherwise if it wasn't my fault? So yeah, we start to then, I think, create this sense of who we are based on what happened to us. And the waking up, I believe, is starting to look back and say, oh, but wait a second, those things happened to me. I did the best I could with them, but the stories that I created, the narrative that I created isn't true. And let's talk about how do we deconstruct that, because this
Mm-hmm.
is what's currently still playing based on things that happened decades ago. But it's not true. It's not true. It wasn't true then. And it's certainly not true now, but it's still a narrative that's running a lot of my thoughts, which is controlling my behavior, which is controlling, how I feel and all of these things. So getting clear on, how to get to truth, how to get to what's actually happening, what's actually real. So questioning thoughts has been a big part of my process.
Yeah.
And finding a thought that feels really yucky and saying, wait a second, is that actually true? That's a big question. And if it feels bad, what does the body compass say? It doesn't feel good, then it's probably not true. If it feels that bad, when I say it, think it or say it, and it has an impact, then wait a second, oh, how do I steer towards something that feels better? How can that shift into something that is more sustainable, more life-giving? Like, how do I feel better coming out of this? So I mean, it's a both and, the negative feelings, the negative thoughts come up, and now it's like, yay, I found that. Like, okay, now I can move it into a more positive direction. I think we tend to get stuck in the bad feelings, like, oh my God, no, no, no. But it's actually, you can look at it from the standpoint of, okay, this is actually great. This is where I get to take responsibility for what's happening right now. I don't have to blame you know, whoever in my past anymore, because it's my life and these are my choices and I'm always at choice. So what am I going to do with this thought? Am I going to continue to let it ruin me and run my life? You know, unconsciously, it kind of is happening. If I don't face it and look at it and shift it, then it's going to keep, the subconscious program is going to keep running.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a big part of the work, really, Dawn, is sort of unraveling the untruths, the things that are untrue, that probably never really were true, but I thought they were. Yep.
Do you know Byron Katie?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Is it true?
Is it true? Is it true? Is it really
Powerful
true?
work. Powerful, powerful work. I resisted the heck out of that for a long time. I
Uh-huh.
really, what is this? This is, you know, but the more I sort of inched in and started, because I keep coming back to it, you know, keep coming back. And boy, it's powerful practice. That is incredibly powerful medicine, the work of Byron Katie.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That and so that when you were talking, I just thought Byron Katie immediately,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Well, it's part of her language.
Abraham Hicks. You know, whatever you're focusing on, that's what you bring. That's what you bring
Mm-hmm.
into your existence, right? So if you're focusing
Mm-hmm.
on the chaos and the hurt and then you're just going to feel more of that. And so redirecting to what feels better. You know, it's not even necessarily what's the best, because you can't, you know, as a
Oh,
pilot, you know, you can't go from 0 to 300 in a second, right? It's like one degree a little bit ahead, right? To get you to the full force. I don't know the physics about it. You can talk about that, but
well, that's a perfect metaphor, actually, because 1 degree of heading change over a great distance takes you thousands of miles from a different course, right? So you take one tiny baby step today, that's going to have a huge trajectory shift, I think. So and that's really all we can do, I think, in any given moment. And we tend to want big changes, big leaps, and those do happen. But I think more often than not, the things that are maybe the most impactful are small changes that we make today that sort of blossom out over time.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's more doable and more manageable. I mean, if you think about, you don't climb a mountain all at once, you have to take a step. So what's the
Exactly.
next step?
Exactly. One step at a time. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times we see the mountain in front of us. I mean, myself included. This week especially, I've seen the mountain in front of me and I'm
Mm,
like, crap, how am I ever going to make it to the top? Whatever the top is, right?
right.
And it's like, okay, what instead of, because that anxiety, worrying about the future, or that depression, and holding on to the past, it's like,
Hmm.
no, I don't have control of either of those things, right? I can only direct myself. The only thing I can control is myself, and sometimes I can't even do that. So, but the only thing that I do have is I have choice. And so what am I choosing to focus on? Am I choosing to focus on the top of the mountain and how, you know, I can imagine how long it's going to take, and oh God, why should I even take the next step? I mean, that was actually the beautiful thing when I went on that pilgrimage in September. You know, I did the Camino, and
Yes.
it was
Oh,
really, it was
wow.
like, you know, at the beginning of the day, oh crap, I've got 18 miles to walk. How am I going to do that? And literally, sometimes during the journey, it's like just the next step. All I have to do is the next step and the next step and the next step, and get into this cadence of, I mean, sometimes I think about the little engine that could, you know, I
Oh,
think I can, I
yeah.
think I can, I
Classic.
think I can, right? So it's just saying, where do I want to go? Where do I want to go? Because I want to sort of stay open to something that's bigger and better and more expansive and feels better than
Mm-hmm.
than what I just left.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know that you can relate in your marriage. Like, I didn't like that journey. I didn't like the trajectory. I didn't like how I was feeling. I felt so um, constricted and not warm and cozy. You
Mm.
know, I felt cold and left behind a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's pretty much the main reason why I got divorced, because I said, I know that there's something better. You know, I've witnessed it in my parents, I've witnessed it in
Mm-hmm.
other people. And, you know, for a long time, I thought, I know I deserve better. And I'm also committed, you know, I want to try and heal,
Oh,
you
yes.
know, and help him heal in the ways that, you know, we're both struggling. Um, but you can only do your work,
That's right. Yeah,
right?
that's absolutely right. That's all we can ever do.
So what
That's,
gave you the courage to leave to find your own way?
hmm. Yeah. Um, hmm. Yeah. So really coming back to something deep inside, something. So I've had two marriages. So I've had two times that I've had the courage to leave.
Hmm.
Um, and I also just want to say, yeah, um, both relationships weren't, 100% wonderful or 100% horrible, right?
Hmm.
Wonderful things in the first relationship, wonderful things in the second relationship, and also things that did not serve me in both. And I think what I did in difficult, incredibly difficult. I mean, it's an excruciating choice to make
Yeah,
until you know you have to do it.
yeah.
And there's so what gave me the courage, and I'm really like trying to laser in here, and I'm putting my hand here, so it's here. There
Yeah,
was
yeah,
something in me that
yeah.
knew I could not say. I knew, and there was tons of fallout both times, guilt, shame, all these things, like, oh my god, I had kids, lots of stuff. So the thoughts kick up, all the feelings, the thoughts, all that. But through all the fog of all that stuff, there was something in me that knew I had to do it, because there was not the alignment in the relationship that I knew I craved, that I needed and wanted. And it's, again, like leaping off into the unknown. No idea if you're ever going to find that. I don't know. I still
Hmm.
don't know.
Hmm.
It's been 4 or 5 years now since my second divorce. And, I hold tremendous hope. But what I have found and what I have come back to, is myself, and not from the standpoint of narcissism and, oh my god, it's all about me. No, it's, I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Hmm.
56 years old, finally. And it's through these, decades and processes, and the continuing the navigation from here, right, following what I have known to be right and not right to the best of my ability, trying to come into a sense of integrity, I guess, and really steer from that place. Like, what is my truth? What do I know? How do I want to be in this world? And who
Mhm.
do I want to spend my time with? And I was in situations that that taught me tremendous amounts, and there were tremendous gifts in both. And yet there was also tremendous things, that were incredibly impactful, that drove my decision to 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 jump off into this. Okay, here we are, the wilderness again. I had to. Yeah, I knew I had to. And fortunately, I had lots of support from people who, I trusted, and you know friends, family, who supported me. So I was able to do it. It's not easy for a lot of people. You might know that, oh, I can't do this anymore, and yet there's circumstances that make you feel like you have to stay. I think
Mhm.
that's a really challenging place to be. So this is just my story and my experience, and I know there's so many variables for so many people. I'm not trying to say that this is what anybody should do. This is just this what happened for me and what my process was. And
Mhm.
uh, but yeah, so.
Yeah, I feel like you're by you staying in a place that brings you that sense of discomfort and pain and hurt, and the fact that you're questioning, this was for me. It was like I was questioning, why is this happening? Why doesn't this work? Why is this so hard? Why,
Mm,
and especially like, because I did carry around a lot of guilt and shame. I was a therapist, for God's sakes. I was helping a lot of other people. Why
mm,
couldn't I help myself
oh.
in my own relationship? So really doubting my own judgment and my own feelings of,
Mm,
there's something really wrong, and what's the matter with me, you know as opposed to saying something's just not working. you know it,
right.
it's not, um I'm living my life in this certain way, and the way that I internally reflect, and the way that I try to challenge myself, to deal with my own fears and insecurities and self doubts. That's the work that I have to do, right? But I want to be continually growing and evolving and moving beyond those things that limit me, and keep creating better experiences for me and for the people around me, right?
Mm, mhm.
But I didn't feel like I could do that, feeling the constriction of where I was. And I don't want to blame him. I mean, there are things that I blame him for, and there are things that he blames me for, which are valid. They're both valid. There were ways that we showed up in our relationship that were not healthy or constructive. And I I always try to simplify, and this is one thing that I've tried to teach my kids. It's like, whatever you do or say, or however you show up, or whatever choices you make, can either help a relationship or they can harm a relationship. And you know the difference between them, right? The things that help the relationship, you feel more connected, you feel more of that warm blanket
Mhm.
sensation, you feel more, sort of safe and secure in your own skin, right? You feel like you don't have to hide or pretend. And the things that harm the relationship, you feel left out in the cold, you know and ashamed or judged or criticized. And
Mm.
that's not a good relationship. So all of those pieces, I struggled like you to really come to grips with what is going to honor me, because this does not feel like it's honoring me. This does not feel like I'm being celebrated for who I am. It feels more like I'm being judged for who I'm not.
Ooh. Wow. I need to write that down.
I think I need to write that down too.
Yeah, powerful words, Dawn. Yeah.
I'm not being
Yeah.
celebrated for who I am. I'm being judged for who I'm not.
Mm.
And I think a lot of us get into those situations where that's the case.
Yes. Yeah.
So for the next one, I want to be celebrated.
Yeah, and I think that starts with celebrating ourselves. I mean, really, what I've been kind of involved with and learning lately, or seeing more and more lately, is how often I disapprove of myself. And, if I want that in a relationship, and I'm not saying I want to run around and like, me. No, it's just this, what's quietly kind of, again, going through the thought processes and how is it making me feel. Like I've really been tuning into my moods and feelings, and then tracing that back to what's going on up here. What am I thinking about that's driving this? So yeah, I think coming to what you're saying about, yeah, the next relationship, it's perfect to envision it, and also like start to practice it for ourselves before anybody else shows up. And I think that's what will actually kind of bring that in again. So yeah, just sort of redecorating the internal house and making that a loving, creative, supportive space. I've noticed for myself like tons of judgments, tons of places where I don't feel worthy. And it's kind of each time something like that arises, like noticing it and saying, ooh, okay, there's that, and bringing compassion in and support and love for that part. So how do we take care of ourselves? How do we love? Again, coming back to self-love, like how do we give ourselves what we most need so that we are balanced and available in a relationship where it's give and take? Yeah.
And to stop that disapproval of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Or again, I think that's a 1 degree vector change, because that's what I'm noticing. Like it's pretty pervasive in my consciousness. Like, wow. And I think, as women, we're really hard on ourselves, and it's driven culturally just by the messaging that comes at us constantly about how we need to improve this product, that product, and we're not good enough. That's the sort of the underlying message. So I'm going to shut all that off, and yet it's the tapes still play. So it's I think a pretty global phenomenon that we disapprove of ourselves. And how can we shift that? How can we first recognize it and then begin to turn the ship? Because it's really taking us down. It's incredibly sad.
It's
It
like
hits the self-esteem. It hits, I mean, there's so many applications, personally, where is this showing up?
Where's the product that says you are enough?
Right.
You're okay
That
just
doesn't
as you
sell.
are.
It's got to be right here. It's got to be here. This is what we're cultivating. This is what we're, I think this is the work.
Yeah.
Right.
There was something that I used to do, my family used to do when I was growing up, because my parents were really involved in the marriage encounter movement. It's basically sort of, religious, spiritual based couples work. and they have group support, other couples group support meetings, and discussing different issues and whatever. And one of the buttons that they used to have was, I'm okay, you're okay. I'm
Yeah.
okay, you're okay. And if we could all develop that sense within ourselves, then we would approach other people in the same manner. Nobody, I mean, it's interesting because in the last like couple of years, you go to a therapist to get fixed. You go to somebody to get healed. You go to somebody to find the answers, or to get the answers. And it's like all of this stuff is within ourselves.
Right.
The ability to self-heal, the ability to self-regulate, the ability to empower ourselves to make more positive changes in our life. The ways that we can be more kind and loving to ourselves, more approving, more accepting
Mm.
of, I'm not feeling okay, but it's okay. It's okay that I'm not feeling okay. So let me just sit in the feelings of, oh, I don't like this. Let me
Yeah.
just sit with it.
Yeah.
How long are you going to sit with it? Is it going to be days, weeks, months, years?
Well, I think the longer we resist the feeling of it, then yeah, could be days, weeks, months, years. But what I've found is that, and we spoke about this a little bit earlier in the call, something comes up, if I give it my attention
Mm-hmm.
and stop running away from it, it tends to resolve more quickly. I think the fear is if we stop and pay attention to, especially the harder emotions, fear, anger, sadness, grief, that it'll just overwhelm us
Bigger.
forever.
Uh-huh.
But that has not been the case in my experience. And the people whose work I respect and read, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But you're right, and I've sought out help along the way. I think what you're speaking to, people go to seek answers. We do have the answers here, but I think we do need help. We're not supposed to do this alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think I thought for years that I was supposed to do it alone, and I tend to be pretty individual. Like, I can do this, I can, grit my teeth and get through whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
the wisdom of the decades for me now has taught me that the key to success is asking for help.
Yeah.
So
Asking
yeah,
for
kind of
help,
letting down the guard,
support.
oh, okay. Yeah. And it's still, yeah, it's still something that I struggle with, because I tend to have, like I said, this real kind of individualist, like, tend to be fairly private and want to get through things, solve problems, and do things on my own. But really, we're not meant to be islands here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That actually has been the theme of the week, is
Oh,
our connections and reliance on one another for support.
yes.
We used to live in tribes,
Right.
right, where we had support all around us. And now, because our lives are so spread out often, away from family, away from friends, that it's harder to maintain these kind of connections.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one thing that I've really appreciated in this time, is having these kind of conversations via via the internet, so that this is how I'm finding my support and finding my sense of belonging, and my sense of um, I can be vulnerable. This is so funny, because there's this big movement in the men's world of growth and evolution about men haven't been taught to be vulnerable. Well, I feel like women have more access to our emotions in general,
Mm,
but we're still
most of
afraid,
them.
most of them, but we're still afraid to be vulnerable, because we've been so conditioned to, I'll just take care of it myself, right?
Hmm.
I've got
Yes.
to I've got to be both, you know, masculine energy and feminine energy. And so I'll just couch my feminine energy to the side and I'll just take care of it. And I'm sure as a pilot, you have to step into your masculine a lot, right? And so, how do you bring that balance into your own life?
Uh, yeah. Ooh, that's an incisive one too. Yeah, yeah, great. So it's so funny. Um, Probably the thing I need to work on the most is the question you asked me, and it's stopped me in my tracks.
Which
uh,
question? The disapproval
oh, do you
one?
find balance? No,
Oh,
the
finding balance.
the masculine, feminine thing. So, stepping into, I'm in the comfort of my home. I feel pretty balanced here, but stepping off into the work world, putting the uniform on and taking on that role, like I change. I do. It's kind of a mission accomplished type thing. Like it's definitely more linear, and I can feel my energy like doing that right now. Okay, getting the job done, point A to point B. I know what I have to do. I have to plan, prepare. That's getting that job done. And there are moments, plenty of moments in a work day for me where I have the opportunity to kind of drop in and kind of be more of me. I guess I would say all of me. When I'm having conversations with the other pilots, mostly men, so the guys. Um, and but not on all subjects. It's kind of just following the lead of what do people want to talk about. I don't know. I tend to what I notice with work and again and the conversations when we're at cruise for hours at a time, you know I tend to be somebody that people want to talk about their stuff with, because I am a warm, compassionate, accepting, loving, kind, caring. I don't wear that on right here, but they kind of get it
But
about
you
me.
wear it right
But
here.
maybe I do.
You wear it right here.
No, it's kind of the both and. It's the job and it's the softer side too. I don't know that it's yeah, that's an interesting a thing for me to kind of look at, because I definitely have a work persona for sure, without a doubt. That when I show up, flight operations for work, that's what it's about until the time we get off the airplane and Barcelona or whatever and go do our labor. So at home it's different. I mean, I think you were talking about how do we balance the different energies, like the masculine, the feminine, the like you know
Doing versus the being.
yes, thank you. Yes, it's much more simple to say it that way. Yeah, it's I guess coming back to our moment to moment choice, and kind of understanding what's in the driver's seat. And sometimes, I mean, there are situations that call for both, for sure, without a doubt. I woke up this morning and the heat wasn't working in my house. Well, I'm not going to sit around and think about how I feel. I'm going to go check the friggin' circuit breaker and see what's down there, So so it's kind of like medicine, you get a laceration on your leg, you go to the emergency room and have them sew it up, but if I've got some sniffles or whatever, I'm going to take my homeopathic remedy and, kind of take good care of myself, drink hot tea, all that. I don't know. So I'm definitely comparing apples to oranges, but I think you understand where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to teach your kids about that balance?
Trust yourself, about that balance. Yeah. I think I'm trying to teach them from example. At this age, you know, they're not hearing a lot of my words. So,
Blah, 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 mom. Would you should
yeah,
just stop talking?
right. Yeah, they don't want to hear any of that. Um, but I do want them to understand and honor all of it, you know, everything that's going on for them inside of them, you know, the more masculine qualities, the more feminine qualities, like really. But I think this is a time of the awakening of the feminine more so. You know, we've lived in this paradigm of, you know, doing, being productive ad nauseum, to burnout, to make money at all costs, to, you know, and look at what's happening, right? I think this time of just being completely shut down is getting back to our original question, like what matters?
Mhm.
Connection, relationships, taking care of people, self-compassion, compassion for others, like the more, you know, feminine, embracing, listening to your intuition, finding what your next best step is. How does it feel? Take a step, check it out. How does it feel? Not so good. Okay, take a different step, you know, and don't be afraid to be a beginner. You know, it's starting every day fresh and new, like, okay, now what? And all the days blend together now, so we got plenty of time to practice, you know?
What are you inspired to do now? What? It's like all of these I heard a couple weeks ago, you know, are you waiting for one day? You know, because
No.
a lot of times we spend our lives waiting for one day I'll do such and such. One day I'll explore XYZ. You know, one day I'll make it to blah blah. And it's like you only have one day. That's
Yeah,
today. That's right now.
that's right.
So
A lot can happen in that one day,
a lot
really.
can happen in that one day. And so what do you want to do? And who do you want to be?
Yeah, I want to be, we'll go there first, somebody who lives in authenticity and integrity, and, you know, continues to take steps in the direction of greater love in this world, self-love and beyond, right? And the doing, to me, is coming back to that question, really, what matters, what's important, what inspires, you know, and not from so much a standpoint of what kind of approval am I going to get from the world if I do this, because oftentimes, you know, to take a bold and courageous step, we have to face the fact that maybe not going to get the approval, but it feels like the right thing to do, and that feels really powerful and potent. So,
Mhm.
you know, I'm going to step off and try this. And it is often a jump off into an uncertain place. So it's being willing to take that risk and, you know, baby step by baby step in the direction of something that looks, sounds, and feels utterly delicious.
So what is feeling utterly delicious to you right now?
Right now, oh my goodness. Yeah. So there's actually lots of things. I've been making lists for gratitude lists every day, and actually making desire lists every day. Talk about the bold step into feeling deserving. Like, okay, so one of my dreams, I really wanted, like, I want to buy an RV or rent one and drive around the country. I'm passionate about photography. I love to take photographs. So I just
Uh-huh.
feel like that would be a really fun thing to do. Like, I've seen a lot of the US from above, and I would love to see a lot of the US from, you know, the ground level. I've done a little bit of that, but not much. And to have your house with you, kind of like a turtle, you know, it'd be kind of a cool thing to do,
Uh-huh.
you know. So that's on the horizon at some point, you know, and
Are your
I'm not
kids
going to go out
coming
and do
with
it.
you?
Oh,
No.
the dog, the dog, and maybe my next relationship. Who knows? No.
You're just going to be a pilot on the
rest.
ground. You're going to be pilot on the
Rest.
ground.
Oh, yep. So that's yeah. The doing, that feels like it'll happen. I'm not so like consumed with that. I think I was in the past, like, oh my, feeling that time pressure, like the clock's ticking, I got to do all this stuff, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna miss the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel that way anymore. It's more you know kind of spending time getting a clarity, and then it's like the action kind of just naturally happens when the time's right. I don't know, I'm a little woo woo that way. Like I just feel like everything's happening in its own timing, and um, I find that I have much more a sense of calm and peace, and not really worrying about it, and things, not to be too la-di-da, but they do unfold and happen as they should. It's just
It's a
kind of
trust.
veering off into my spiritual side, which is pretty massive. But yeah, it's part
It's
of
a trust.
just trusting in, in the unfolding, trusting in the nature of things, and um,
And trusting in yourself to just go with it.
to be able to go with the flow, trust in the higher order, right, right,
Mm-hmm.
divine timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I say that all the time. Divine timing, divine order, and that,
Mm-hmm.
and really following your inspiration, following those inner messages that you get. Like for me with this podcast, it was like
Mm.
when it came into my radar, it was like, oh, wow, that's really fascinating. I've never thought about that. And okay, let me explore this. And, so I did a couple weeks of exploration. And then it was like, here's an opportunity to actually do it and create it. And I
Mm.
just felt compelled, like, doesn't make sense. I don't know why, but I
Yeah, it doesn't
just
matter, but you
know that,
knew.
right?
Right.
And so it's sort of taken on a life of its own. And, I don't know who, what, why, where. I don't know what's at the end. I just know that I'm here to show up and participate in the journey,
Right. And the end almost doesn't matter, right? I mean, that
doesn't.
it is that what you feel as your mission, right? It feels clear. You know what
Uh-huh.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every
And
and
when you
every
know, you know.
conversation, yeah, every conversation is just affirmation, all of the things that we've been talking about. It's like, yeah, this is what I'm here to talk about. This is why I'm here to share, people's stories about their own journeys of how they've woken up in the world, how they've woken up to themselves, how they've discovered their own sense of love and acceptance. And because when we witness this in somebody else, it also gives us permission to witness it in ourselves.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So if you don't know how to do it, there's not like a step by step, manual of this is what it takes to get to self love and realization,
Right.
right? It's like I just see people that I really admire, and I used this word last night, revere. It's like
Mm.
this real reverence, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure part of it is my spirituality, just this reverence for something greater than me. It's this connection with myself, this connection with you, this connection with my kids, this connection with, others out in the world. And that sense of, I belong, I
Yes.
belong. And you are my mirror, so the things that I love and appreciate in you are the things that I also learn to recognize in myself.
Mm. Yeah. And together we take each other higher. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is, I Thank you so much for being here. I mean, I love talking to you. I have.
So do I, Dawn. I've loved it. Thank you so much. What a great opportunity. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
So, the last question that I usually ask Laura is, how do you define real love?
Save the best for last, don't you? Oh, real love. It's an energy. It's a power. It's not a concept or a thought form. You know, Don, this is so great because I've actually never considered that question before. And you're helping me really get clear and get to it. What is it? Not a feeling, that's too fleeting. It's power. It's raw power, but it's raw benevolent power
Mm-hmm.
that we can tap into with our moment to moment choices to look for beauty, gratitude, compassion, love. Like there's so many words. I mean, it's indefinable, but I think it is the power. It's the power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the power. The interview that I just published today, her motto is love changes everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it does. This is, you know, this is the way we change the world, not through the fear and the doubt and the insecurity and the judgment, but the opposite of those things is love.
Mm, those can be portals because they point us, our suffering wakes us up. It teaches us it's not meant to
Mm-hmm.
be there forever. It's just meant to be a wake up call.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a place to live.
Mm-hmm. It's a place to go to find out where you really need to redirect.
Well, we don't even have to go there. Life takes us there.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
once we find ourselves there, we can use that as a portal to, and it just automatically happens. We're human. We don't want to feel that, right?
Right.
So, but the problem is people, I think, and myself included, massively, I've resisted it. So what I've learned and what I'm continuing to learn is if I stop resisting the fear, the pain, the emotional, and go into it, look right at it, be with it, let that energy be there, and no longer fear it and resist it and run away from it, that shifts. It takes you right into something incredibly powerful that for me and my recent experiences have been that it actually will dissolve and it takes you right into the light side, the love, the goodness, like the compassion and vision and yeah, all these things. So all here to help us learn. It's all
Mm-hmm.
serving us, all,
Mm-hmm.
really, ultimately. It
Mm-hmm.
really, every experience, it's all happening for us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's shifting that perspective. It's happening for us. And where do I need
Not
to
to
learn?
us,
Where
right?
do I need to
Stepping out of,
learn more love and compassion, either for myself or for somebody else?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Love is the power. That's our new
The
motto.
power,
The power.
the power.
So, if people want to connect with you, Laura, how can they connect with you?
You can contact me through Facebook. My Facebook name is my full name, which is Laura Anne Hof. I also have an Instagram account, but I can't tell you what my Instagram handle is. So find me on Facebook if you want to reach out. Thank you.
I'll figure
What
it
an
out.
honor.
I'll figure out
Honestly.
and put it in the show notes for the Instagram too.
Thank you.
But so yeah, so everybody, I'm sure that you will be inspired as I'm inspired by this conversation. So please subscribe to the Wake Up to Real Love podcast and share with all of your friends so that we can spread more love to the world and help everybody rise up.
Be power.
Be power, live the power.
The power.
The power. And and if anybody would like support in figuring out how to create more real love in your life, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Awakening with Dawn. And I have a new little thing where you can schedule a 30-minute consultation with me on youcanbookme.me. My name, dawnrichard.youcanbook.me, to get some support and help and figure out if I can, help support you in any other way. So, as I always say at the end of every podcast, which we have been discussing over and over, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here with me today, Laura. It's been so great connecting with you as always.
I agree.
And I'm sure we will be having many more conversations like this.
And I will look forward to that. Thanks so much.
So thank you, listeners, for subscribing and being here with us. And every day, wake up to more real love. The power.
Feel the power.
All right. Take care, everybody. See you next time. Bye.